Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from J.B.O, Planet Pink, out May 13th on AFM Records. This album has 12 tracks, 44 minutes in length, and this the band's 14th full-length studio album. They are a German comedy heavy metal band. Now, as far as the design goes, this album is chaotic fun. That's how I'm going to describe it. It's an album that doesn't necessarily offer you a path. It doesn't feel linear in its movements. The songs sometimes interact with one another, but there's no consistency in that interaction from top to bottom. It's a record that really forces you to take each song individually, experience everything that that song has to give you, like squeeze that juice to the most, and then move on to the next track. Like I said, there are a few that interact with one another or that set up one another, but overall the record is really about the individuality of the songs, the chaos, the fun that that individuality brings into the forefront. Don't come in expecting anything else. Enjoy the moment that you're currently in before you get to enjoy the moment that you're going to be on. That's the best way to approach this record. As far as sound is concerned, the consistency of quality and production from top to bottom is really phenomenal. Regardless of where they took these songs, regardless of the influences, regardless of where the starting point was, the quality of sound and production stays very balanced, very together, high level from the first all the way to the last track. And that perhaps is the red line that connects every single song together, because musically, vocally, there's a lot of differences from track to track. It's really hard to find similarities. But when it comes to the quality, when it comes to the production values of this album, that stays consistent, and that kind of helps glue this whole album together. Now, within the soundscape of the record, I really felt like there were two elements that jumped into the forefront, and I was not expecting them to have perhaps as much of a predominant role as they did. Coming in, listening to a few songs, listening to the singles, I was thinking the album was going to have a little bit more of a synthesizer role. It was going to be more electronic driven perhaps, but that's not necessarily the case. The drums and guitars really play an important role on almost every single track in order to create some consistency and bring their own brand of heavy metal into the forefront. Now, the drums are not overly heavy on this album, but they do pack enough sound to really make the songs feel more substantial. When the songs need to be a little bit heavier, they also increase the volume and they increase the presence that they have within those tracks. But more often than not, they're there to just create a baseline, to just create a foundation for everything else to be built upon. And they do it very well, sung in and sung out. The guitars are actually phenomenal on this album. I was really impressed with the quality of the musicianship, with the quality of the production, the quality of the execution. Everything surrounding the guitars on this album was really top notch, and it's definitely one of the highlights of the overall record. I like the sound. I like the consistency of sound when it comes to the production side of things. I like how chunky and heavy they are in some songs, how more classic heavy metal sounding or even classical music sounding they are on others. It shows the wide range of experiences that you can create with electric guitars and really give the listener different perspectives to digest within one single record. It was fun to listen to the guitars on this album because they had purpose, they had direction, but they didn't overwhelm the listener. They didn't try to be more than what they were. They were just one piece of the puzzle when it comes to the J.B.O sound experience and the fun and chaos that ensues with that experience. Now, the vocals, I don't think I've ever laughed this hard at a record in German when I don't understand a single word that's being said outside of one track that was in English. But it just doesn't matter. The way they sounded, the way they came across, the dialogue, the way the songs made me feel, all of it made me laugh, put a smile on my face, and it just shows that music is universal. It doesn't matter if I don't understand the lyrics. It doesn't matter if I don't understand the songs, at least the nucleus of the songs. The vibe, the fun atmosphere, the laughs, the giggles, all of that you can get from the music and the vocal performance on this album. It's palpable, it's easy to digest, it's easy to understand, and it's impossible for you not to have a smile ear to ear when you listen to J.B.O Planet Pink, because it's a fun record. It has a fun sound, a fun experience, and the vocals add so much to that fun. It was Monty Python in German. That's kind of the perception that I had. I don't know if that's the case, but that's the perception that I have as a non-German speaking person. And I had a blast listening to this album and hearing what they had to say, sung in and sung out. I can only imagine what the dialogues are throughout this entire record. So overall, a fun album to listen to. I've discovered this band through this record. I'm definitely going to go check out some of their older material, because sometimes you need to laugh. In the world where everything is taken so seriously, in a world where everything seems to be doom and gloom, sometimes listening to a record shouldn't be about anything else but putting a smile on the listener's face. And Planet Pink definitely puts a smile on people's faces. It put a smile on my face. It tickled me pink. Let's put it that way. As far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Klassiker, taking bits of classic music and making a metal song. This was a really interesting track because I really like the lead into this. There's a song that comes before where they're talking to each other, and at the end they mention Mozart. And then when this song starts, you're like, oh, okay, so this is where they were going. Because I couldn't understand the thing they were saying, but so this is where they were going with it. It made the song so much better. That leadway, that intro track before really made this song a lot more impactful. A track that feels heavy, that sounds heavy, but still very dynamic, offering different experiences throughout, but always going back to that classical touch, to the heavy touch, allowing the song to be driven by the guitars more than anything else. It's a song that has a tons of changes. Like I said, very dynamic musically and vocally. The classical backdrop really stays consistent from start to finish, and it's really what grounds this song and is what gives it its spinal cord, its nucleus, and its heart. Next you have Mima Metal. I recognized the melody immediately. And the moment I recognized the melody, it almost didn't matter what the song was going to sound like, because I was giggling the whole time, regardless of what they were saying, regardless of where this song was going to go. I just couldn't stop laughing from the moment that they went go with this track, because the melody is so recognizable that you immediately know where it's coming from and you have an idea of where it's going to. So it's a very interesting song from that perspective. It has a lot of heaviness. The riff on this song is very heavy at times, a lot heavier than what I was expecting coming in, considering the overall mood and the overall melody. And the bass really pops on this track. I think this is one of those tracks where you can definitely tell that there's a bass in the mix, because it comes across very clearly. It helps define the song. It helps give some heaviness. It also helps ground the track. It has two main components, this song. One of them is how catchy the track is, and the other one is how awesome the guitar sound is from start all the way to finish. That was definitely, with the bass, two of the elements that really jumped out in terms of being beyond my expectations for the track itself. Last but not least, the last song on the album, Volks Prague. I had an idea when I read the title of this track of what this was going to be. First of all, I thought it was going to be a German, because of Volkswagen Volks. It was going to be a German prog song, but with a J.B.O spin on it. That's exactly what it was. I mean, this is prog on acid. This song goes in 1,000 different directions. It gives you 1,000 different sound experiences from start to finish. It's chaos throughout the entire track. It makes absolute no sense whatsoever. I guess for those that are not fans of prog, the way they perceive prog is how this song sounds like. So it's the perfect way to describe this track. Try to talk to somebody who doesn't like prog and ask them to describe the experience of listening to a prog song, and then listen to this. The two are exactly the same. This is chaos, is going nowhere, is moving all over the place. They're throwing everything in the kitchen sink into this track, and it's definitely J.B.O's very own take on prog music. So I love that this was the closing track. I honestly don't think a song as ridiculous, as chaotic as this one is could be anywhere else in the track listing. It really has to be at the end, because when you finish the album on this note, you can't really go back to another song. I mean, this is an exclamation mark on any record, so definitely on this one as well. This is it, J.B.O, Planet Pink. Let me know your thoughts on this crazy fun band. Let me know your thoughts on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.